94.3 The Dude is very grateful to our men and women in uniform. We're proud to recognize local members of our military by turning the spotlight on them right now in our Soldier Salute.
I'm your host, Sergeant First Class Retired Don Sorensen, and on today's Soldier Salute, we've got 282nd U.S. Army Band CW3 Chief Tom Bauer. Chief, tell me about yourself.
My name is Tom Bauer, and I'm a native of Clemson, South Carolina. I came into the Army in '96, really with just the intention of doing 4 years and getting some more money for college. Found that this is a job that not everybody can do, and they told me they'd pay me to go live in Germany. So I said, where do I sign? And kind of continued for the next 23 years now. Became a warrant officer bandmaster about 10 years ago. I am the commander of the 282nd Army Band out at Fort Jackson. Been there for about a year and a half now. This is my fourth command. It's the greatest job in the world. I get to stand in front of 40 talented musicians and conduct our nation's fight song, the national anthem. That still hasn't gotten old. I still have an overwhelming desire to yell play ball when I'm finished because I love our anthem and I think it needs to be played the way we play it. And to be able to do this in the greatest army in the world, the greatest army that the world has ever seen, pledging to defend and serve the Constitution of the United States is also one of the greatest privileges that I have. To do that as a repayment to this great country that my family has been in for the last 5 generations, I'm very proud of.
Chief, when I first joined the military, the Marine Corps back in 1986, I didn't have to try out with a rifle to get in. But that's not quite true with the band, is it?
No, that's not quite true. You do have to pre-qualify before you come in. We enter the Army under what's called the Army Civilian Acquired Skills Program. You have to show that you have the skills because unlike the rifle, as you mentioned, once you join the military shows you how to use that rifle. The military is not going to show you how to use your individual instrument. You have to prove that you can do that beforehand. And it's an elaborate process where you have to interact with a recruiter and then interact with someone like myself. It's called the AMPI, the Army Music Proficiency Assessment. You get a particular score. You have to meet a minimum requirement. I can't speak to the other branches, but in the Army, you come in as a specialist because you've already shown that you have that unique skill set. Currently, you can qualify on the classic woodwind instruments, your clarinet, your flute, the brass instruments like a trombone. I was a trombone player, the trombone, trumpet, French horn. Most people don't know that we take rhythm players, a bass player, a drum set player, rhythm guitar, solo guitar, and we recently opened up to vocalists. We've always had vocalists in the Army. We have a musician that was uniquely talented and enjoyed it, but we've codified that now, and you can come in as a vocalist, so that's what you do. You front the band. And then also we have sound engineering professionals that you can come in now and actually run the soundboard.
Chief, a lot of young people out there that may have aspirations to be musicians may feel like their opportunities are limited, but they're probably not thinking about specifically what the United States Army Band can do for them. What does the 282nd Army Band offer to these aspiring musicians?
Well, we're a unit made up of 40 soldier musicians, and we're divided into anywhere between 4 to 5 music teams, and each one of those teams plays a different kind of music. For instance, if you're a saxophone player and you like jazz, you can be in the jazz combo. If you're a young person that likes to sing top 40 hits, we have a rock band. We also have several ceremonial groups, so you'll be standing on the parade ground or you'll be supporting a graduation ceremony on post or playing the anthem off post somewhere. And then at times, like for Independence Day and for the holidays, we bring all 40 of those musicians together and play as what you would probably think of as a typical high school or college concert or symphonic band. So there's plenty of opportunities for all different types of music.
So, Chief, a lot of people think high school marching band, that's the type of music that you're going to play. You have to be into the big band or jazz or Sousa marches.
Well, you're going to play plenty of Sousa marches for sure. But yes, you're going to have the opportunities to play many, many different styles and types of and kinds of music, all kinds of different venues. I've played and conducted across the country. I've played for presidents and 4-star generals all the way up to your lowest ranking private.
Chief, November 11th at 5 p.m. or 1700 for any of our military listeners out there, at Trinity Cathedral here on Sumter Street, right here in Columbia, you guys are performing, but it's not a typical Army Band performance, is it?
No, it's not. We're not playing any Sousa. This is more to mark the occasion of the signing of the armistice. We're going to be playing a variety of basically classical music. Composers like Duraflé and Dupré, Richard Strauss, Johann Sebastian Bach, just to name a few, along with American composer Aaron Copland. Those are just a few of the highlights of the compositions that we'll be playing. Each one of the selections, or a large majority of the selections that we'll be playing, are tied somehow to either World War I or World War II, because I think it's crucial that we mark such a pivotal event like World War I in the history, in 20th century history, and the cause and effect that it's had for such a long time.
Chief, if my listeners would like to know more about the 282nd Army Band, where can they go?
We have a Facebook page, and we publicize everything there, so you can check us out there. We'll be putting out information very soon on our December holiday concert at the Koger Center, so check us out there.
Hey, Chief, thanks a lot for joining me on the Soldier Salute.
It was a pleasure.
Chief, we've talked a little bit about what the Army Band does, and a lot of people I don't think would understand the importance of a soldier in uniform showing up with musical instruments and a set of songs to entertain troops on the ground. But it's really important to those guys, isn't it?
Very much so. I would kind of agree. During the initial invasion, I was kind of wondering why I was there. But once we got settled and once we started entertaining troops and performing ceremonies, it became very obvious. Like I said, with that Marine in Bakuba, we gave him 2 hours where he was able to really relax his mind and relax his brain and just let some of the stress go. I think it's also important in a wartime environment, because I'll never forget standing on a field once playing our anthem in Iraq and being very proud of what I had done and what we were trying to accomplish there. Studies also showed, well, I don't want to get into the studies, but the rates of suicide in units where Army bands and military music had been, they decreased by like 10 or 15%. So just saving one life, if that amount of effort, saving one life, it's definitely worth it.
Chief, I still remember the first time I met someone that was actually in a military band organization. And the crazy thing is, they were pulling MP duty during the first Gulf War, and the MPs had been deployed. Is that a traditional role that the band will fill during times of war or activation?
Well, I can say been there and done that. I'm a veteran of the invasion of Iraq, and I did stand a few posts. But that's not typically what we do, and it's not part of our mission set anymore. During the invasion, once we got to Baghdad and once we got things stabilized, we put our rock band back together and we started to tour. The USO was in country, but we go where the USO doesn't because we're much better armed. And it was a great experience. I went all over Iraq. I played for British royalty when they were in Basra, all the way up to a young private once. We went out to play for a company of Marines in a town called Bakuba. And after doing a 2-hour show, a young Marine came up to me as then Staff Sergeant Bauer, and he said, "Thanks, I just forgot where I was for the last 2 hours." That stayed with me forever. And I think it's also critical because those Marines later were involved in the first Fallujah invasion. So we were able to give that young Marine a chance to relax for a moment. That was very powerful.
Chief, I think a lot of our listeners would be interested in the opportunity to hear the 282nd Army Band perform, but you got to come on to post to do something like that, don't you?
No, you don't. We do play in the community a lot. We have, for instance, coming up on the 11th of November is going to be our Veterans Day concert. This year marks the 100th anniversary of the signing of the armistice and the cessation of hostilities in World War I. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month, and this has been 100 years since that's occurred. So we'll be marking that event with a concert. It's not going to be your typical Army Band concert. We're not playing any Sousa. It's very atypical. Each piece that we're playing has a story behind it. The concert is going to occur at Trinity Cathedral right across from the state capitol because it's brass, choir, and organ. One of the pieces was played at the rededication of a church in Verdun, which was really blown off the map by artillery fire. So everything has a story. My wife is going to perform a piece that was composed by a French composer who wrote it for a friend who was killed during World War II. I'm very proud of her efforts. The hidden heroes of our Army and our military are the spouses and our families. I'm surrounded by people that you could call heroes, but that list of heroes was reduced to one the day my daughter was born. So to highlight the talents and the strengths of those hidden heroes on this concert as well, I think is fitting.
Thanks for joining us in our Soldier Salute, presented by Little Pig's Barbecue. Serving Columbia since 1963 with that bodacious buffet. By Lexington Guns and Shooting Range. Veteran owned and operated. By Carolina Honda Powerhouse. Motorcycles, ATVs, and side-by-sides with discounts for all military personnel. And Dominion Energy. We depend on our servicemen and women, and they can depend on us.